A warrior who couldn't stand. A prince who couldn't walk. Yet he conquered kingdoms that made entire armies piss themselves in fear. His name was Ivar the Boneless, and he was born from a curse that should have killed him. Instead, it made him the most lethal strategist the Vikings ever produced. This is the story of how one night of lust created a military genius who rewrote the rules of war. And it started with a prophecy that his father was too arrogant to believe. Before we get into how Ivar the Boneless conquered England, you need to grasp the sheer impossibility of what he was. A boy with bones made of gristle, who the sagas describe as the handsomest, largest, and wisest of all Ragnar Lothbrok's sons. A cripple who became a giant. A man who couldn't walk, but made kingdoms kneel. How? The answer is in blood older than Christianity, in a prophecy spoken by a woman who could see the future, and in one catastrophic mistake that changed everything. By the end of this, you'll understand why Ivar the Boneless is still the most terrifying Viking who ever lived.
Ivar's bloodline reads like mythology because it basically is. His grandfather, Sigurd the Dragon Slayer, the guy who bathed in dragon blood and became invincible. His grandmother, Brynhilda, a literal Valkyrie who gave up immortality. This is the DNA running through Ivar's veins. Gods, warriors, and tragedy all mixed together. His father, Ragnar Lothbrok, needs no introduction. The man who raided England so hard they wrote poems about him. The Viking who made monks pray for death before he arrived. But Ragnar had one fatal flaw. He couldn't control himself. Enter Aslaug, beautiful, mysterious, and a seeress, meaning she could literally see the future. When Ragnar met her, he was obsessed. She had the same legendary blood through her father, Sigurd. She was everything he wanted. But Aslaug came with a warning, a prophecy, and Ragnar made the worst decision of his life. He ignored it.
Here's where everything goes wrong. Wedding night. Aslaug looks at Ragnar and delivers a prophecy that should have stopped him cold. Do not touch me for 3 nights. If you do, our child will be born boneless, cursed, broken. 3 nights, 72 hours of restraint to save their son from a lifetime of hell. But Ragnar was a Viking king who took what he wanted. The sagas say lust overwhelmed him. Maybe he didn't believe her. Maybe he thought he was above fate. Either way, that first night, he couldn't wait. 9 months later, Aslaug gives birth to a baby with no bones, just cartilage, just gristle. His legs can't support him. His body bends like rope. Where there should be a warrior's frame, there's just softness. Most fathers would have left the kid on a hillside to die. That was Viking custom for deformed children. But Ragnar didn't. Maybe guilt. Maybe he saw something in the boy's eyes, something cold, something calculating. Because here's the twist. Despite being boneless, Ivar grows into a man the sagas call large, handsome, and the wisest of all Ragnar's sons. This is where Ivar becomes fascinating, because the historical sources contradict themselves in the most brutal way. One version, he's boneless, can't walk, gets carried on shields, a cripple in a culture that worships strength. Other version, he's the largest of Ragnar's sons, the strongest, the most feared, an intelligence so sharp it borders on supernatural. So which is it? Cripple or giant? Both. And that's what made him unstoppable. Ivar figured out what his brothers never did. Your body is just one weapon. If it's broken, you sharpen your mind until it's deadlier than any axe. While his brothers were swinging swords, Ivar was devouring strategy, studying enemies, mastering psychological warfare. He turned his curse into a weapon, a man who couldn't stand but made kings kneel. Here's the irony. Ragnar's weakness, his inability to wait 3 nights, created a son whose entire life became about patience, cunning, and strategic genius. The curse didn't break Ivar. It forged him into something far more dangerous than a strong warrior could ever be. Growing up boneless in Viking culture was torture. This was a society where your value was measured by how hard you could swing an axe, and here's Ivar, son of the legendary Ragnar Lothbrok, unable to stand. The mockery, the whispers, the unspoken question, how can a cripple be a king? But humiliation is fuel, and Ivar burned hotter than anyone. He mastered tactics warriors considered dishonorable. Ambushes, deception, mind games. He studied Roman military strategy, watched how his father won battles with brains, not just brawn, and slowly the boneless boy transformed into something terrifying, a battlefield genius who saw war like chess. By the time he invaded England with his brothers to avenge Ragnar's death, Ivar wasn't just a prince, he was a myth. A cursed king who'd weaponized his weakness into the thing that made him legendary. The prophecy was supposed to destroy him. Instead, it created the most feared military mind the Viking Age ever produced.
So here's the takeaway. Ivar the Boneless wasn't boneless because of bad genetics. He was boneless because his father couldn't control himself for 3 nights. Because a prophecy was ignored, because fate demanded payment. But here's the deeper lesson. Your greatest weakness can become your greatest weapon if you're willing to adapt. Ivar couldn't be a conventional warrior, so he became an unconventional conqueror. Couldn't rely on strength, so he mastered strategy. Couldn't walk, so he made the world come to him. Born from a curse, forged by mockery, made unstoppable by the very thing that should have killed him. That's the secret of the Boneless Prince. If this story hit different, smash that subscribe button. We've got more Viking legends, more brutal histories, and more tales of men who turned their curses into crowns. Drop a comment. Which Viking should we cover next? Remember, sometimes the most dangerous men are the ones who never stood at all.